How much money did you actually end up sending?
$1,023,000.
A woman who spent decades touring the world as a backup singer for music legends like Linda Ronstadt and Stevie Nicks, whose voice can be heard on the iconic track Blue Denim, lost $123,000 to a man she fell in love with on Facebook, a man who called her his queen, who showered her with compliments every single day, who promised to marry her and spend their lives together, but who never existed, using stolen photographs of an innocent life coach whose face had been weaponized to break hearts and drain bank accounts across the globe. Liza Likens described what happened to her as the most horrible thing since losing her husband Gregory, a man she loved deeply and whose death left her unprepared for the predators waiting to exploit her grief, because as Gregory himself said to her before he passed, he apologized that he hadn't prepared her for the world, and those words would prove tragically prophetic when scammers came hunting for exactly the kind of vulnerability his death had created. If this is your first time on this channel, hit that subscribe button because this story reveals exactly how romance scammers steal photographs from innocent people to create fake identities, and understanding their sophisticated tactics could save you or someone you love from the same devastating fate. What makes this case particularly heartbreaking is that Liza wasn't naive or reckless. She was a successful professional who had toured with some of the biggest names in music, who had met celebrities and navigated the entertainment industry for decades, but none of that experience could protect her from criminals who have turned romance fraud into a science, studying psychology and manipulation techniques to exploit the most fundamental human need for love and connection. The story began with a Facebook message from a man who called himself Donald. He wrote to Liza that he was getting ready to retire and was looking for someone to marry, someone to be his partner for the rest of his life. His profile picture showed a man in a meditative pose with a face that struck Liza immediately. He looked like her late husband Gregory. She has always been attracted to men who resembled the love of her life, and seeing that familiar face in Donald's photographs created an instant emotional connection that the scammers knew exactly how to exploit. For the first time since losing Gregory, Liza felt her heart skip, felt that flutter of possibility that maybe she could find love again, that maybe this stranger reaching out across the digital void was the second chance she never expected to have. Donald began calling her his queen. He showered her with compliments constantly, making her feel special and desired and valued in ways that filled the emptiness Gregory's death had left behind. He would call her every day from Germany, where he claimed to be working, and they would talk for hours about their lives, their dreams, their future together. This technique is called love bombing, overwhelming a victim with affection and attention to create emotional dependency, and experts warn that it's one of the most effective manipulation tactics scammers use because it provides victims with something they've always wanted or needed, making them willing to do anything and everything to keep that feeling alive. What started as a whirlwind fairy tale, as Liza herself described it, gradually became a crippling financial nightmare when Donald started asking for money. The first request seemed small and reasonable. He needed money just to buy more time on his cell phone because with all the talking they'd been doing, he had run out of minutes. It was a minor expense, a gesture of care for someone she loved, and Liza sent it without hesitation. But that first payment opened a door that would never close, each request building on the last, each excuse more elaborate than the one before, until the total she had sent reached $123,000. Liza is far from alone in falling victim to these schemes. Every year, thousands of Americans report being duped by false promises and fear tactics from romance scammers. Experts point out that vulnerability comes in many forms. Sometimes it's believing too much in people, sometimes it's believing too little, and sometimes it's actually arrogance that creates the opening. People who are overly self-confident often say they could never be tricked, so their guard goes down and they don't do their homework, making them perfect targets for criminals who know exactly how to bypass those defenses. At one point, Donald's request escalated dramatically. He told Liza to send him $250,000 in bail money because he had been arrested while transporting a safe that he claimed was filled with $700 million in gold and cash. He said he was being held in a prison in Spain, and he sent her a photograph as proof, an image of a man holding a post-it note with Lulu written on it, one of his nicknames for her. Liza looked at that photo and believed it was real, believed her love was sitting in a foreign prison waiting for her to rescue him so they could finally be together. At first, she was even impressed by his handwriting, commenting on how perfect his printing was. But later, when she went back and studied the image more carefully, she made a devastating discovery. The writing on the post-it wasn't handwriting at all, it was a font. Donald had photoshopped text onto the image, creating fake proof of his imprisonment with digital tools and stolen photographs. She couldn't figure out how he had made it look like the post-it was in his fingers, and looking back now, she realizes those might not have even been his fingers at all. Just another layer of digital manipulation in an elaborate fantasy designed to extract money. When asked if she was truly in love with Donald despite everything, Liza answered honestly, yes, she did fall in love with him. The feelings were real, even if he wasn't. She even wrote to him at one point, when the money kept supposedly getting stuck in various countries, telling him she didn't care about the $700 million. She just wanted him to come to her, to finally be together in person without the fortune. That statement reveals the tragedy at the heart of romance scams. Victims aren't motivated by greed for riches, they're motivated by genuine love for someone who exists only as a carefully constructed illusion. Liza waited at the airport 4 separate times for Donald to arrive. 4 times she drove there with hope in her heart, expecting to finally meet the man she loved, expecting to begin the life together that he had promised through thousands of messages and phone calls. 4 times he never showed, always with another excuse, another complication, another reason why their reunion had to be delayed just a little longer. During this period, Liza made devastating financial decisions. She sold her car and she sold her house, liquidating everything she had to send money to a ghost. When asked about her friends and support system, whether she told anyone about Donald, Liza admitted she had only told a couple of people because Donald didn't want her to tell anyone about their relationship. Experts immediately flagged this as a critical warning sign. When a romantic partner insists on secrecy, when they don't want you sharing the relationship with friends and family, something is very wrong. Scammers demand secrecy specifically because outside perspectives might recognize the manipulation that victims caught in the emotional fog cannot see. Finally, after 4 failed airport meetings and hemorrhaging money she couldn't afford to lose, Liza had had enough. She enlisted the help of an online investigative company to confirm whether she was being played. The investigators showed her the truth. They showed her who the real guy in the photographs was, how the pictures had been stolen from his profile and his website to create the fake persona of Donald. Liza was speechless. She sat there and went catatonic as the reality of what had happened crashed down around her. Not only had she been fooled by a sophisticated criminal operation, she discovered that the man whose face she had fallen in love with was also a victim in his own way. The real person in those photographs is Ralph Bauer, and he doesn't deal in gold or cash. He's a life coach whose images have been stolen and weaponized to scam countless women around the world. There are so many fake profiles using his face on Facebook that he receives calls from women on every continent who have been deceived by criminals hiding behind his photograph. Ralph expressed his frustration directly, saying that if he were a Secretary of Law in the United States, he would go after Facebook and force them to their knees, demanding they protect the women being victimized through their platform. When reached for comment about Ralph's concerns, a spokesperson for Meta, Facebook's parent company, sent a statement confirming they were aware of his case, writing in part that people who impersonate others on Facebook and Instagram violate their policies and that they remove this content when it's found, adding that their work in this area is never done. Meta reported that just last year alone, the company took down over 2.6 billion fake accounts, a staggering number that reveals the scale of fraudulent activity happening on social media platforms every single day. Cybersecurity experts confirm that this happens constantly. It's very easy for criminals to take pictures offline and use them to create fake identities, and stolen photographs are used in almost all romantic scams because real faces create trust in ways that words alone cannot. When Liza tried to seek justice through official channels, she hit wall after wall. She says Las Vegas police told her they couldn't help because cryptocurrency cases are outside their jurisdiction, leaving her with no local law enforcement support despite losing over $100,000 to criminals. When she filed an online report with the FBI, she says the agency didn't respond. When journalists reached out to the FBI for comment, the agency said it cannot confirm or deny the existence of an investigation, standard language that offers no comfort to victims wondering if anyone is pursuing the people who destroyed their lives. The Las Vegas Police Department did not respond to requests for comment. Experts emphasize that self-compassion is a critical part of recovering from any kind of scam, that victims need to give themselves grace and understand that bad things happen to good people, and that falling for a sophisticated con doesn't mean they're any less smart. Here are the critical warning signs from Liza's story that everyone needs to understand. First, be extremely suspicious of anyone on social media who claims to be looking for marriage or a life partner with someone they've never met. Legitimate relationships don't start with retirement and wedding announcements. Second, reverse image search any photographs sent by online romantic interests. Criminals steal images from real people to create fake profiles, and a simple search can reveal if the face you're falling for belongs to someone else entirely. Third, love bombing. The overwhelming flood of compliments and affection early in a relationship is a manipulation technique, not genuine love, designed to create emotional dependency before the money requests begin. Fourth, anyone who asks you to keep your relationship secret from friends and family is isolating you deliberately so that outside voices cannot break the spell. Fifth, no legitimate romantic partner will ever ask you to wire money for cell phone minutes, bail, trapped gold, or any other emergency. These stories exist only to separate you from your savings. Sixth, if someone continually fails to meet you in person despite making plans, they are almost certainly not who they claim to be. Seventh, examine photographs carefully for signs of digital manipulation, fonts instead of handwriting, inconsistent lighting, or anything that seems too perfect. If you found this story important and you want to protect yourself and the people you care about from similar devastation, please subscribe to this channel and share this video with everyone who needs to see it. Liza Likens had a career most people would envy, singing backup for legends, traveling the world with music royalty, but none of that success or experience could protect her from criminals who exploited her grief over losing her husband and her hope for finding love again. The lesson here is not that Liza was foolish. The lesson is that romance scammers are professionals who study human psychology and have refined their techniques through thousands of victims, and anyone who thinks they're too smart to be fooled has already lowered the guard that might have protected them. Talk to the single people in your life about these scams. Create environments where friends and family feel comfortable sharing new relationships without judgment. And remember that the face on a screen might belong to an innocent life coach in another country whose image has been stolen to break hearts and empty bank accounts. Liza fell in love with a photograph and lost $123,000, her car, and her home. But she's sharing her story so that others might be spared the same fate. This has been another investigation into how romance scammers steal identities and destroy lives. Stay vigilant, reverse image search everyone, and never send money to someone you've never met in person, no matter how much your heart tells you they're real.